real quick, we're running out of time, but bring us to an end. Bring us to a landing on this.
Well, there at the end, like I say, I think the last time I told you I went through 21 days, and so I did the pills and cocaine. That was, I was 20 then. I'm about to be 36 now, so I'm 5. So I was 30 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember, which he's not my youngest son now, he's my second youngest, Alex. I remember him being about 1 years old. I got a job at the jail, and I was outside, and I was able to see him, and I was going to get to touch him first time he was a year old, and I touched him when he was young, but never nothing that he ever remembered. My mom brought him up there, got the car, and was like, "Come here, buddy," and he didn't even know. He didn't know me. He ran back to my mama crying like, "Who is this guy?" Which I had changed and so I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to get it together." And so that was my biggest breaking point. I done went through the 21 days there, of straight detox. That one was, and I feel like now that God did, I had detoxed a few times, but never like that. That was one of them that God did to me, like, hey, you're going to remember this one. I'm going to lay this one on you. You're going to remember this. You ain't going to want to go through this again. And so, what's crazy after that? So then I started, and I actually ran, in a couple of weeks' time there, I actually ran into Brandon, and Brandon had fired everybody. It was just crazy. And so then I was supposed to go up for parole, and I went up for parole, and I was like, "You don't need parole. Your sentence is ending." I'm thinking I got 2 more years left, and so everything. I had like at that time I had like 10 days left on my sentence. I thought I had 2 years left, but which I still had to go to another jail and do 60 days. But I just went from 28 months left to 70 days left, and then so I'm like, man, I got to take advantage of this. And then that night, Brendan's coming in to teach living free at the jail, and I run into him, and I'm like, "Hey, you need any help?" And he's like, "Man, I just fired everybody today, literally everybody but one guy." And I was like, and I told him what happened. He's like, "Yeah, call me when you get out." So I stayed in contact with him, and finally, I got past that and got out, and I didn't even go to sleep. I got out at midnight, and I was in Giles County. Got out at midnight, went to work at 8 o'clock the next morning. Never even went to sleep. When you first get out, your mind, you cannot sleep. I don't care what you do until the next day. And so I went ahead and went to work and worked the whole day. And here I am, still working with him. And so,
Well, bring this thing to an end. I just want to say to everybody out there that when I talk with Brandon, for those who maybe hearing for the first time, Brandon comes on with me all the time, and he's a phenomenal guy that was looking at like 12, 14 years in prison.
yeah, a good while.
Yeah, and God just miraculously just took all that away, and He changed his life, and he was ready to accept what he had. And he said, "I'll serve God in prison, or I'll serve outside." He really had that conversion in his life, and he's made something of himself. And we're going to talk with him when he comes back on here, hopefully for next week, about a vision and his vision for his life and how important vision is to anybody who wants to be in recovery. Vision's important, but another topic for another time. But I just want to say that Brandon speaks so highly of you, Matt. He has said over and over and over about how you are just willing to be open and surrendered and just learn. And he has pumped a lot into you, and you are just in return of pumping into other guys.
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it's supposed to keep the chain going.
And he's just so proud of you, man, and I'm proud of you. And I'm just excited to see where you're going to be at in another 5 years. You've got 5 years coming September.
Yeah.
What's going to happen 5 years down the road? You're going to take this place by storm.
I hope so. I hope so, and I hope we bring more with us.
That's right. The kingdom of God's going to be built, and we're looking forward to that. We're going to have you back on here in a few weeks, and we'll make sure we get some video on that, because I know a lot of people would like to see the video part of it also. So we'll have you come back on.
Make sure we look like something.
Yeah, you'll have to dress up a little bit better.
Yeah.
Brand couldn't make it, so Brand has a funny thing, because Brandon just said, "Hey, I had Matt do it." So he shows up at the work site and says, "Hey, Matt, you want to go on a radio program?"
Yeah.
Brandon has a funny thing, because Brandon just said, "Hey, I had Matt do it." So he shows up at the work site and says, "Hey, Matt, you want to go on a radio program?"
Yeah.
Brandon has a funny thing, because Brandon just said, "Hey, I had Matt do it." So he shows up at the work site and says, "Hey, Matt, you want to go on a radio program?"
Yeah.
Brandon has a funny thing, because Brandon just said, "Hey, I had Matt do it." So he shows up at the work site and says, "Hey, Matt, you want to go on a radio program?"
Yeah.
Brandon has a funny thing, because Brandon just said, "Hey, I had Matt do it." So he shows up at the work site and says, "Hey, Matt, you want to go on a radio program?"
Yeah.
This is WDXE, W287AA, and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
Let's land here for a bit.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
What was it called?
The Rich Eisen Show.
Oh, man, am I really on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, buddy.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
14-3. David in Oregon, I'm glad you pulled over, sir. Raiders go 14-3.
Today's guest, the second gentleman of the United States, Douglas Emhoff, senior NBA writer for The Athletic, Sam Emmett, Formula E CEO, Jeff Dodds, co-founder of Lava Media, Jason Flom, and Formula E's
affiliate. If you're listening there, we appreciate you, as well as Sirius XM, Odyssey, and then there's our podcast listeners who listen to us whenever they darn well please, thanks to the Cumulus Podcast Network.